sit down and actually work out a plan by which you believe you can make an improvement, then life becomes exciting. You're enthusiastic. You're looking forward to every day. Otherwise, you say, oh God, it's only still middle of April only. When will the end of April come? When Monday morning comes, oh, one more week of slogging I have to do. There's nothing in life to look forward to. But when you're working on yourself every moment of your life, even if it is a painful situation, even if it is a loss, you learn something from it. You learn, you pick up the threads, you pick up your pieces if you've fallen apart and start moving. This is what Ekalavya did. Ekalavya, that little child, one of the worst things that can happen to you is when the Guru says, go to hell, I don't want you. Dronacharya rejected him. But he didn't sit there and cry. He didn't sit there. He did not so much as even turn around and ask him, why? Why are you throwing me away? What did he do? He went, he made a statue of Dronacharya and decided to gain inspiration from the statue and kept on practicing till he mastered that art of archery. And after he mastered it, he chose to go back to Dronacharya and offer Guru Dakshina. What confidence! And he had reached a stage of perfection where he was much better than Arjuna, who was Dronacharya's best student. This is what we're talking about. Once you get on to self-development, nothing in the world will come in your way, or should come in your way. But where is that and where are we? Yesterday somebody told me, I can't come to the lecture today, Ambedkar Jayanti. Do you even know what Ambedkar did or what it is? So, effort is most important. And a person who is committed to self-development in any field of endeavor, you automatically develop respect for that person, never mind who he is or what he is or where he is placed. Isn't that so? But a person who is just hanging around, lolling around, nobody has respect for us. Next verse.
Nanyam gunebhyah kartaram yada drashtanupashyati gunebhyascha param veti madbhavam sodhigacchati.
When the seer does not see any agent other than the gunas, qualities, and knows that which is higher than the gunas, he attains my being. Now he moves on to a completely different track, which is how do you get beyond the three gunas. If you take a look at this chart here, the first 4 verses spoke of how Brahman is the father of all. You remember he spoke of Lord Brahma as the womb and he places the seed and then all beings come as a result of that. Verses 5 to 9 deal with the 3 gunas and how the 3 gunas bind all of us. 10 to 13, how these 3 gunas combine, and when sattva predominates, what happens? When rajas predominates, what happens? When tamas predominates, how does it manifest? 14 to 18, he speaks of the effects of sattva, rajas and tamas, and we've done 2 of these verses today. Now, in 19 to 25, he tells us how to transcend the 3 gunas, because if you remember, we said sattva, rajas, tamas are still part of matter, are still the world. Our mission in life is to go beyond the world, and therefore we have to reach the state of gunatita, beyond the 3 gunas. So this topic, 19 to 25, these verses deal with this, and the last 2 verses conclude beautifully and tell us how to become Brahman. It's a complete chapter. First verse, Krishna says, I will teach you further this wisdom by which you can become Brahman. And in the last verse he says, I've given you the knowledge. If you do all this, you can become Brahman. So in 5 days, we can start from tamas and reach the highest state of gunatita. You don't laugh, it's possible. The only thing is, you should want it. See, Arjuna himself did not want it. It's true, because Krishna gives the knowledge by which you can get to the state of realization. Arjuna did not reach there. Arjuna got enough to fight his battle and win it. Similarly, all of us have battles to fight. And perhaps what we are interested in is only enough ammunition to fight that battle and be happy. You'll get it. But why do you, with the same knowledge, when you can get to infinite bliss, why do you want to settle for anything finite is the question. So anyway, what he's saying here is, when the seer does not see any agent other than the gunas, this is a fabulous statement. All that you need to know, need to do to get to the state of complete tranquility of mind is just understand how the gunas function and watch the gunas unfolding in yourself, in others, and you will be in a constant state of exhilaration and entertainment. It is so entertaining that you will not want to watch any TV program, because it fades into insignificance compared to the real life dramas that is going on. So, Brahman, unmanifest Brahman, has no expression, has no matter, has nothing that's coming out of it. But Brahman associated with gunas creates this multifarious, wonderful universe where every single object and being has its own unique combination of the three gunas that makes life so interesting. The ignorant, people who don't understand the distinction between the gunas and Brahman, get caught up in the gunas, get victimized by the gunas, get crushed by the gunas, and are sorrow-ridden, despairful, like, I dare say, all of us. But the wise person who perceives the play of the gunas and understands that I am beyond the gunas, I have nothing to do with these gunas. It's like a lady puts on makeup, what do they call it? A lipstick, and the other day I was called to to take a photograph for some magazine, and the other ladies who came along with full suitcase full of clothes and makeup and all the rest of it. I went as I was, and then she asked me, "Haven't you got any makeup?" I said, "No." "If I give you makeup, will you wear?" I said, "But I don't know how to apply it also." So it's that's why I'm struggling for words. Anyway, you put on makeup, some have light makeup, some have heavy makeup, some have different kinds of makeup. These are like the gunas. They have nothing to do with your original personality. So a person who's in sattva mode doesn't get into all this makeup business, focuses instead on cleansing the inner personality so that the power and divinity of Atman shines forth. Then you don't need any makeup. That's why it's called makeup. You know what it means? Makeup for deficiencies. When you don't have stuff, then you have to make up for it by using makeup. That's what they mean. Correct terminology there. But anyway, so when you understand the gunas and you understand that I have nothing to do with the gunas, then you rise above them by identifying with the underlying reality, Atman, which is so blissful. But then you can't bring yourself to even think of the gunas. It's it goes against the grain to come down to that. Just as an adult now, if you have to interact with or transact with children, it's an effort to come down to their level. You gladly do it. You do it effortlessly maybe, but still there is this little bit of shift in gears is necessary to come down to their level and say, okay, you're having a fight. Why are you having a fight? And one kid says, because he took away 9 marbles of mine. And you have to resolve that fight. Similarly, a sattvic individual deals with us in exactly the same way. Only thing is, instead of fighting over 7 marbles and 9 marbles, we are fighting over millions of rupees or dollars or whatever it is. But the principle is the same. So, in the absolute, there are two ways of looking at it. In the absolute sense, you separate the gunas completely and merge with Brahman, you reach the state of realization, and then the whole world, the 3 gunas revolve around you, you have nothing to do with them. In the relative, even in the relative, while you are in the world, it gives complete relief, because when you understand that, okay, here is a person with a certain set of gunas, certain set of qualities, certain traits, and these traits have been developed not just from birth to now, they have been developed over janmas. So it's not going to be easy for that person to overcome the gunas, especially because he's not even aware of them and he's not making any effort to change them. You and I are, compared to a person out there, is at least aware of the gunas functioning within us, and let's say at least 5-10% of the time we are making an effort to overcome our negativities, and even then we find it so difficult. Isn't that true? How can you expect a person who doesn't know and who's making no effort to rise above his qualities? So all that we need to do is understand that these are the gunas functioning. When you make an assessment, you accept it, and then you don't get agitated by it. This is the most wonderful part of the whole practical philosophy that there is in this chapter, is this: understand gunas function and accept. When you accept, understand the nature of a person and accept the person for what he is and she is with pleasure, this is love. Love is not sitting there and saying, I love you, you love me, and then fighting 5 minutes later. Love is a constancy, a steadfast commitment to a person irrespective of what comes out of that person. Pleasant things may come, unpleasant things may come. Like yesterday, a lady called me, and her husband is an alcoholic. He's just come back from, what do they call it? Rehab. Somewhere out of town. And she told me in a completely dispassionate tone, says, even when he was, she told me he's not well. So I said, really, what happened to him? So she said, he went to through this detox or rehab or whatever it is, and even when he was there, he was popping pills. I said, what? I thought popping pills means taking an analgesic. What she meant was taking drugs. And he's come back and he started drinking and the pills together. So this combination resulted in his falling ill. And she told me, she said, he's not going to improve. I have to accept him as he is. I can just do what I can. If he falls ill, take him to the doctor, that's it. I cannot expect him to improve. And in that statement, I saw peace of mind. For the first time in her life, after marriage, she's come to accept it. And that gives peace. In a telephone conversation, I could pick that up. What must be the peace that she experiences? Most of us don't have to contend with such extreme cases. We have to contend with little irritating factors here and there. That also we're not able to accept. We're constantly complaining. You know what happens when 5 ladies get together? They discuss, what do they discuss? Husbands. And each one is complaining about her particular husband, and there is an almost competition among them to discuss whose is the worst husband. A person who understands the gunas and accepts has no comment to make. Not because you're hiding something. How can you make a comment? It's like saying, my pet dog barked. Is that a newsworthy thing to talk about? When you have a dog in the house, the dog will bark. You understand? You're smart, you picked it up. Right? So now we move to verse 20.
गुणानेतानतीत्यत्रीन् देहि देहसमुद्भवान् जन्म मृत्युजरा दुःखैः विमुक्तो मृतमश्नुते.
The embodied one, having gone beyond these three gunas, qualities which create the body, is totally liberated. Vimuktaha. Muktaha means liberated. Vimuktaha, completely, totally liberated. From what? Birth, death, decay, and sorrow. And amrutam ashnute, attains immortality. When Atman, the self, combines with the three gunas, you become an individual and you get shackled by the three gunas, fettered. You then operate within the limits of those three gunas. It's like we saw on the first day. You're born with a genetic code, you're stuck with it in your lifetime. The only difference is, with reference to the three gunas, you have the freedom, you have the choice to act apart from the gunas. And this is the most fantastic capacity that you and I have as human beings. You may be born with angry vasanas, rajasic gunas. But you have a choice of standing apart from the rajasic gunas and cultivating sattva. When you do that, you change your SRT code, and then you have a choice of going beyond the three gunas. So if you identify with the self, never mind what the level of your gunas is. In spirituality, in the Bhagavad Gita, there is no importance given to your existing level. It can be anything. It can be very bad, it can be mediocre, it can be good. The emphasis is on self-effort, on improvement. Doesn't matter if you're at the lowest level. If you put in sufficient amount of effort, you can get to the highest state. When? Not 100 million janmas later. Right here and now. This is the positive philosophy that we have. So, identify with the self, transcend the gunas, and instantly you are vimukta, completely free from the 5 changes that you are subject to now, 5 traumatic changes: birth, growth, decay, disease, and death. All of these cause tremendous pain and agitation. You might say, how does birth cause agitation? No baby is ever born smiling and laughing. All of us are born crying. So obviously there is pain associated with birth. Growth, every aspect of growth is traumatic. There's so much effort. You fall, you hurt yourself, and you have to keep moving. And with all that effort, you become a full-grown adult. Then what happens? Decay starts. Disease. With every tooth that falls, not milk teeth, what do they call? The permanent teeth. Every permanent tooth that falls, there is trauma, anxiety, tension, pain. Every sign that your metabolic your system is slowing down, slowly you get your knees your joints start creaking, and your speed of walking goes down, and it just shows the process of aging. That's all. It's painful, and death, of course, is painful. So what is it that you find so exhilarating in life? And all this you go through not just once, over and over again. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Sometimes you think back and think, when is this going to come to an end? And when you understand that, then comes the process of growth. Growth, where you make a commitment that I have the option of standing apart from it. Let me identify with Atman and move in the other direction. In the life of everyone, there is this turning point. There is this tipping point, which means You keep thinking a few thoughts now, a few thoughts later, a few thoughts tomorrow, day after, day by day, and then all these thoughts accumulate and bring about a sudden change in your personality. And that's called the turning point, for which you have to consistently put in action. Action means what? Just thoughts. Think differently. When you're sitting waiting for somebody, in life here in India, either you are waiting for somebody or somebody else is waiting for you. We spend a lot of time waiting, or you're at the airport waiting for a flight or whatever. Instead of thinking and manipulating and calculating, and all of which agitates you, think of how do I get beyond this cycle of birth, growth, decay, disease, death. And then what happens? You attain amrutam. Amrutam. Mruta means death. Death means birth, because death can't take place without birth, which means change. So when he says that, what he's saying is, as an individual, you're entangled with the gunas and you're subject to birth and death. The wise one identifies with the self, is no longer susceptible to change, and therefore rises above all these changes. Now, we don't understand the sorrow that all this causes. We've got acclimatized to sorrow. That's the problem. Therefore, there is no urge to get out of it. It's like when a person lives in a prison for a sufficient amount of time, he loses sight of the fact that there is freedom out there. And he remains content in the prison. We are like that. One last verse we'll take, 21.
Arjuna uvacha कैर्लिङ्गै स्त्रीन् गुणानेतान् अतीतो भवति प्रभो किमाचार कथं चैतान् त्रीन् गुणान् अतिवर्तते.
Arjuna said, this is the first time in this chapter that Arjuna is speaking. He says, O Lord, Prabhu, what are the signs and behavior of one who has gone beyond these three gunas, qualities? Because in the last verse, Krishna says, go beyond. Now, the fact that Arjuna is asking a question means he's bitten the bait. He is now motivated to go beyond the three gunas. How does one rise above these three gunas? First of all, Arjuna and Krishna are close friends. They have been childhood friends. And yet, look at the way he addresses Krishna. O Prabho means O Lord. There is complete humility, because he understands that even though they were friends, Krishna has wisdom, knowledge, he's at a different plane altogether. And this humility is extremely important, not for the other person. Krishna couldn't care less how Arjuna addressed him, but it is important for the student. If you and I are serious about getting to the state of realization, the first thing that we need to cultivate within us is humility. So Prabhu is a sign of that humility. Arjuna is inspired to reach that fourth plane of consciousness, and therefore he asked this question. But mind you, he's been asking the same question in different forms since the second chapter onwards. But Krishna doesn't say, refer to your notes on second chapter. Diligently, dedicatedly. See, Krishna shows more dedication than Arjuna. That's true in every relationship, I guess. Dedicatedly, he answers the questions. Now, if you want to know the answer to Arjuna's question, you have to come tomorrow.